Friday, the 24th of November, 2023 at Protestia Studios. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving yesterday with your family. This is your intelligence briefing where we bring you the latest in Christian polemics and discernment news, headlines from all over the interwebs, including most especially from Protestia.com. This program is brought to you by our intrepid patron supporters who for only $5.95 a month join with us on a financial level by heading over to patreon.com/Protestia. Starts at $5.95 a month. There are other tiers of support as well, but for $5.95 a month, you get the full version of Protestia Tonight, which includes the PTVIP, as well as now ad-free browsing at Protestia.com. We would encourage you to support us financially if you are blessed and helped by this ministry, including what we're going to do right now. Let's get to the headlines. First headline at Protestia.com. Kenneth Copeland mixes his own blood with Jesus's, supposedly, and drinks it during communion. ? When arch-heretic Kenneth Copeland is not giving false prophecies about COVID being destroyed. Those were some of my favorites, by the way. Throwing someone in a wheelchair to the floor, casting away bald spots in Jesus' name, or even running his own bizarro Bible college, the world's richest prosperity preacher in America, can frequently be found making up stuff about Jesus and justifying his personal theological idiosyncrasies in order to increase his net worth, this time with a viral video going around showing him drinking his own blood in some bizarre communion rite. While there is a sense in which Copeland, who is surely demon-possessed, routinely feasts on the body and blood of the saints while engaging in grotesque inner monologues that were better never hearing, he did not drink his own blood in this instance, as some have claimed or suggested. He was speaking at the 2020 Southwest Believers Convention, ironically named, Copeland riffing about different biblical covenants so that people can think back to this moment the next time they take communion and aren't left wondering at its meaning. First, he illustrates the covenant of salt between believers by mixing 2 bags of salt, then gives a gruesome illustration to demonstrate the covenant of the blood. He pretends to cut his hand, and KGVC Professor Greg Stevens pretends to cut his own, and they drip their blood in the communion cup, joining the two before Copeland drinks it. Here's the video here. Let's watch just a little bit.
The Lord directed me to demonstrate some things. I need to zip that little Ziploc bag. Do we have that? So that the next time you take communion, this will be in your mind's eye. So this...
I really want that already. I can tell I don't.
Is your cup.
Yes, sir.
This is my cup. So put it in there.
Okay, I mean, obviously that was fake. Which is it?
That's the cutting of the covenant.
All right, so he pretends to cut his hand, even making the noises too.
And then I would do the same.
Jesus said, take this cup. This is my blood of the new covenant.
Okay.
We mixed our blood.
Mixture of cran grape juice. Okay, got it.
What you see is which is mine.
And we could never separate
You
them.
can't separate that. Now, our blood symbolically has been mixed here. Now, at the communion table,
Yes, sir.
he said, this is my blood.
So I don't know if maybe some people were posting parts of this clip or something to insinuate something other than what it was. It's still Kenneth Copeland. It's still awful, but it doesn't look like he's actually drinking his own blood. So yeah, there's that. Next headline at Protestia.com. Church Militant founder steps down after breaching morality clause. Church Militant is a hardcore Roman Catholic website And Michael Voris, I believe that's how he pronounces it, has resigned and left the organization after breaching the group's morality clause, according to a press release shared by the group and reported by religion news service. Church Militant has made a name for itself as a collective of radically aggressive and unapologetically dogmatic polemicists that have been sharply critical of Pope Francis and any hint of liberal drift within the Roman Catholic Church. And while we would say that, Pope Francis is terrible, and he's a radical socialist Jesuit, that doesn't make conservative, quote unquote, Roman Catholics any less lost, any more saved. But this looks like the leader of the Church Militant, the founder, I guess I would say, Michael Voris, apparently violated some sort of a morality clause or something like that, and has now resigned, saying sometimes it takes very horrible events, even at your own hand, in your life to surface certain things that need to be faced. There are some very, very ugly truths from my past that I, for essentially 62 years, have avoided facing because I wanted them resolved, but understand that touching that pain is going to be a very horrible thing. So, I guess he's been hiding something for quite some time. And more than anything, of course, we would pray for his repentance and turning to Jesus Christ and not trusting in his own works for salvation, but instead in grace alone, faith alone, and Christ alone. Next headline at Protestia.com. Head of the world's largest IFB church, that's Independent Fundamentalist Baptist Church and College, apologizes for this scandalous, inexcusable sin. Pastor John Wilkerson, the chancellor of Hyles Anderson College and the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Hammond, has torn his garments, heaped ashes on his forehead, and issued a heartfelt apology for allowing a speaker with moderately long hair to reference the NIV during a presentation on creation at a college and church event. So this is FBC Hammond, First Baptist Church of Hammond, tweeting out. It looks like a tweet here from November 3rd, just a little while ago. In conjunction with our theme for November, Resting with Eternity in View, we will be hosting a Creation Evidence Expo Saturday through Monday, November 11th through the 13th. So, this all sounds well and good, but apparently they had a problem here. And the problem was that they decided to invite a gentleman who they, I guess, describe as a long-haired hippie. This is David Liddy in the picture here, to speak at the event, and I guess they got some pushback from that for independent fundamentalist Baptist reasons. The decision to invite folk from the Creation Evidence Expo was blasted as an unadulterated and inexcusable compromise in an Old Paths Journal feature where the author reveals both his heartbreak at learning one of the presenters was a member of a Reformed church. Ooh, God forbid. And that they would dare engage in such morally decrepit and sinful behavior. Quote, I received a text from a pastor with a picture that showed a long-haired hippie, David Liddy, teaching in the pulpit of FBC Hammond. Then I received multiple calls from preachers about how they were told the NIV was used, and not the King James Version, of course, was used on slides, and there was indecency in some of these slides. So go over to Protestia.com to read more about this. This was tweeted out, it looks like originally from Bad Preacher Clips. It's at Bad Sermons at Twitter. When you're quick to apologize for a guest with longish hair in an NIV, but still leave decades of covering for sexual predators unacknowledged, hashtag you might be an IFB, an Independent Fundamentalist Baptist, that is. Go over to Protestia to read the rest of that and see the details for yourself. Moving on, next headline, prominent alleged abuse survivor claims SBC President Bart Barber is trying to commit her to a psych ward for 6 months. And of course, you know who this is, now calling herself Hannah Kate Osborne, or as we have usually referred to her, Hannah Kate Williams, currently a prominent alleged sex abuse survivor, currently embroiled in a series of lawsuits against the SBC over claims they ignored her alleged abuse, and now claiming that SBC President Bart Barber and the executive committee are seeking to have her strip searched and involuntarily committed to a psych ward for 6 months. Okay, Of course, on the surface, we would realize that they have neither the will nor the call, the ability to do any of that, as everybody, I would have assumed everybody on the face of the earth would know. But anyway, I guess we're calling her Osborne now, who we last wrote about after claiming she played a key role in the SBC's upcoming declaration of bankruptcy, which has not materialized, and then claimed she received a, quote, $3,000 bill for crisis intervention from the SBC, petitioning to have me committed so I couldn't testify in a case against them, which she has shown no proof occurred, says she was instructed she must give her mental health records, which may or may not contain a history of alleged suicide attempts, to the SBC's lawyers, or face involuntary confinement for half a year. Yeah, the chances of that are, as my grandfather would say, slim to none. I think a lot of you would probably say that as well, but this is her saying on October 30th, 2023, that she got an almost $3,000 bill for crisis intervention from the SBC. And they were trying to have her committed. Just got another call today. This is later on the 20th, just a few days ago. Got another call today being harassed through the courts by the executive committee to give them access to my mental health records or otherwise be involuntarily committed to a psych ward. The SBC plays dirty. And the funny thing is people are actually believing this. That's the crazy part, is people are reading this stuff and saying, oh yeah, that sounds legit. That sounds like totally something that they could do. It's insane. Got another call. I'm shaking. Level of harassment is making me not feel safe in my own home. SBC executive committee, you did this. Like the crazy. I mean, what are they? You know, the old legal adage is anything you say, or in this case, anything you tweet, can and will be used against you in a court of law. So the fact that she is out here just publicly, you know, sort of spewing things all over social media would cause anybody with a real case, any lawyer with a real case, to say, would you shut up already? This is not going to help us. Oof. And then this quote unquote ally of Hannah Kate Osborne, Hannah Kate Williams, likewise chimed in and shared this, saying, I don't know who this is, but the Twitter account is 80 Atoll. The SBC jinxed my vacation. Freedom's Bride, which is Hannah Kate Williams, and I wanted to spend time together again for months. Finally had plans. Yesterday, the court notified her of a petition on behalf of Bart Barber and members of the EC to involuntarily commit her for the next 180 days. The SBC is abusing power and resources to silence victims. This would be the second time the SBC has had her commit. So this person is claiming that the Southern Baptist Convention has had Hannah Kate Williams involuntarily committed for psychological treatment. Again, there's no chance that that's true. But this is just insane. This is crazy. And if history is any example of this, the SBC will, like Hannah Kate Williams is making the SBC look really good right now, but if history is any indicator, they will somehow find something to step in, some way to ruin this, some way to, again, step in the way and make themselves look like bigger idiots in response to this. That's just how it's happened so far. And so then Hannah Kate Williams responds to this person and said, I heard the recordings in addition to what she listed here, both Pastor Adam, I'm trying to remember who that is. I don't remember off the top of my head, but point being, and Bart Barber effectively calling me a liar, saying nothing I've said is true. Remember, they're being sued for defamation as well. I wonder if she's aware that she can also be sued for defamation. I mean, the legal precedent is a little, well, it's a little mixed on who would and wouldn't be considered a public figure in a case like this. So if I was her lawyer, I'd be telling her, get off of social media. You are totally torching and ruining any possibility of us prevailing in this case. But I'm not a lawyer. Don't take legal advice from me. I'll throw that disclaimer out there like I usually do, try to do all the time. And you can read more about it at protestia.com. Next headline. Investigative firm denies IHOP KC's claim that they tried to contact regarding Mike Bickle's scandal. Grace has never received any inquiries. So this is investigative firm Grace, godly response to abuse in the Christian environment. And they're pushing back it's an investigative firm that investigates, issues of potential abuse and things like that in churches and parachurch ministries and things. And apparently the IHOP, International House of Prayer in Kansas City, claims they tried on multiple occasions to reach the organization to have them oversee an investigation into abuse claims made against founder Mike Bickle. And Grace is saying, nuh-uh, we've never heard from you guys. We don't have any record of you trying to contact us. After news of the initial scandal dropped, many have been clamoring for IHOP KC to hire Grace to lead their investigation, including 3,200 people who launched an online petition. Grace is considered by many to be excellent in their field and uncompromising in their assessments. And they say here in their initial report last week on November 9th, IHOP KC made multiple, this is IHOP's report, their initial report on November 9th. They said they made multiple attempts to reach out to Grace and explore the possibility of having their investigators come review findings, and Grace did not respond. And then Grace told the Christian Post, following a review of communication channels, to our knowledge, Grace has never received any inquiries or communication from current IHOP KC leadership regarding recent allegations. So it looks like there's a he said, she said kind of thing going on this one. Read more at protestia.com, including links to the Christian Post article about the issue. Next headline at Protestia: health update on Arizona evangelist shot in the head while street preaching. This is just a horrible occurrence, and this is an update on Pastor Gary March of Victory Chapel First Phoenix, who provided the congregation with an update. He saying it's up and down. He's not out of the woods. And this is probably his wife, I would assume. So Pastor Gary Marsh, is the person giving the update on 26-year-old Hans Schmidt, a former military combat medic. And Pastor Gary Marsh saying he's not out of the woods yet. Folks, he's showing signs that he's on his way to recovery, not out of the woods yet. We need to continue to lift him and Zulia, his wife, up in prayer. But yeah, he was out street preaching, and somebody walked up and shot him, and he is in desperate need of prayer. We would ask you to lift up Hans in prayer for his recovery after this just horrific and evil event. We're going to keep following the story. We'll let you know if and when something changes here. Next headline at Protestia: Pope hosts trans women for Vatican luncheon. Of course he does. Fresh off of saying he's open to priests blessing homosexual relationships and that transgendered people can be baptized as Catholic, Pope Francis sat down with a group of several trans women, i.e. men with body dysmorphia and mental illness, for a meal to mark the World Day of the Poor. You can read about this at protestia.com, but of course we would say there's no such thing as a good pope, since they are the head of an evil and wicked heterodox church, and Francis has been particularly noxious and vexatious, doing things like affirming the faith of Joe Biden and saying he would never refuse communion to him because the president's love for abortion is between him and God. Yep, find that at protestia.com. Moving on, got a few more headlines for you for this intelligence briefing. Apostate Kanye West curses up a storm following win as Billboard's top gospel artist. I don't think I have to say I told you so, but I'm going to anyway. When Kanye West first came out saying that he believed in Jesus now and he was a big Christian and he's running around trying to make gospel albums and sing gospel songs, there were many of us that said, slow your roll, as even assuming he's a regenerate Christian, he is a new believer, and he should not be jumping out in front and trying to be leading any sort of movement or being looked to as some sort of a Christian inspiration or example. At this point, he has zero track record of faithfulness, and it looks like we were likely right about this. We can't see into the hearts of men. Certainly salvation is between all men and God, but we can certainly look to the fruit of the Spirit, or in this case, the lack thereof. This is Kanye West, days after being named Billboard's top gospel artist, beating out Elevation, CeCe Winans, and Maverick City. Rapper and producer Kanye West released a new expletive-laden single, making it clear that the gospel is the furthest thing from his mind. We had high hopes for Kanye. Maybe our intrepid staff writer had high hopes. I was suspicious. Let's say it that way. When we first covered his supposed conversion in 2019, he was in good hands and was being taught and discipled by pastors who were theologically sound. Over the years, he demonstrated some good fruit, such as Kanye talking expository preaching and Jesus on Joe Rogan and talking faith in a new GQ interview. We got quotes from that in this article, and yet in the years since, his fruit has rotted into a smoldering mass of mold and worms, a messy public divorce, frequently bad theology, shacking up with whorish women, pagan thinking, hedonistic behavior, inexcusable actions, racist sentiments, all illustrative of seeds that fell on poor soil. I remember seeing him hanging out with Joel Osteen and knew this is a problem, and now he has released a single called Vultures, where he says in the lyrics, 3 gang leaders with me all times. I don't know who I blanked last night. I got Alzheimer's. I don't know who them hoes is, man. They all lying. Brody, tell me who them hoes is, man. They all fine. Running hooligan. And we with the foolish. How am I anti-Semitic? I just blanked a Jewish blank. I just blanked Scooter's blank, and we ran up like Olympics. Yeah, this is the person that so many professing Christians were looking to as some sort of a Christian example or indication that we were taking ground on the culture and on the world. Read more at protestia.com. Hat tip to church leaders for that scoop. Last couple headlines. ELCA, that's the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, releases hilariously woke DEI recommendations for their denomination in 2022. They paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to engage the services of an external auditor to conduct a comprehensive audit of the ELCA's governing documents for diversity, equity, inclusion, and I guess this new one, accessibility, to see where they're missing the mark and how they can implement DEI practices and policies into the culture and character of their fledgling and dying, thank God, denomination. The law firm released its findings to be considered for implementation, and they're about what you would expect, including upgrade all personnel policies to reflect, to ensure at least 10% of members of assemblies, councils, committees, boards, or other organizational units should be persons of color and or non-primary English-speaking persons, and at least an additional 10% of such members shall be persons from historically underrepresented groups, which I guess include supposedly gender fluid persons, LGBTQIA, LMNOP plus persons who possess a disability, etc., as if those are comparable in any way, morally speaking, and so on and so forth. You can go read the recommendations here if you want to be, I'd say surprised, but not really surprised. It is the ELCA, after all. They are a simmering cauldron of blasphemy and Mephistophelian angst, to the point that sitting through an actual church service at one of their pagan temples is a foretaste of the hell that awaits them if they don't repent. We have links at the bottom to see some of that if you're set on punishing yourself. Next, last headline on this intelligence briefing, setting the record straight on the Grace to You G3 cessationist conference rift. Last week, one X user noticed a change in the marketing material for the upcoming cessationist conference being put on by G3, showing the venue was no longer being held at Grace Community Church and was no longer an advertised ministry partner. That's Grace to You is no longer an advertised ministry partner, prompting a question that's been viewed nearly 100,000 times for an event that's still a year away. I reached out to some sources, including Justin Peters, to see what was going on. Didn't get a response. He's a busy man, so it's no problem, no harm, no foul. But people were certainly asking kind of what was going on, and now we have some confirmation from. This is David Lovey, of the writer of the Cessationist movie. He said there's no rift at all. There were a couple of reasons the venue is moving, but none of them bad. Funny how people just assume things. We love JMac. There is zero problems on either side. And then Matt LePage, who I don't know who that is, but someone on Twitter, X, who claims to have pretty routinely claims to have insider knowledge about what's going on over at Grace Community Church and Grace to You, said, from my intel from those within GCC, John MacArthur through Phil Johnson, asked to that Grace to You distance themselves from G3. I can only imagine as to why, if you've been following a certain debate. I'm assuming insinuating that it has something to do with the debate over Christian nationalism, but Phil Johnson responded and said, the insinuation this fellow is making is utterly false. This is the kind of sinful tale-bearing that is forbidden in Leviticus 19:6 and condemned repeatedly in Proverbs. And said that it looks like John MacArthur's decision to not speak at the conference is unrelated to a personal conflict or doctrinal disagreement. As far as I know, no such conflicts exist between G3's core leadership and our group of ministries. The venue for the conference changed, so Grace to You is no longer named as a co-sponsor. However, reps from Grace Community Church, Grace to You, and the Master's Seminary are still scheduled to speak at the conference. So it looks like this is a much ado about nothing. Can't say that I'm surprised by that, but you can read more about it at Protestia if you are curious. And if anything else develops in the story, of course, we will bring it to you. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Intelligence Briefing for Friday, the 24th of November, 2023. Have a good weekend. Go to church and worship with the saints on Sunday. If you're in Colorado, perhaps I'll see you there. As always, Semper Reformanda.